Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau issued a brutal warning to Donald Trump, but made it clear that the problem is not the American people. The problem is Donald Trump's dumb trade war that he is launching. This was very interesting to see as a contrast to the completely deranged and outrageous speech that Donald Trump gave last night, irrational and erratic in every way. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke yesterday, and he very calmly and soberly and expertly distinguished between the American people, who are, of course, continuing to be the allies of our Canadian friends to the north, and this policy of Trump that is just leaving complete and total destruction economically in its wake. So here is Trudeau first saying to the American people, it is your government that has done this to you. We're not angry with you.
Now, just like I did a month ago, I want to speak first directly to the American people.
Yes.
We don't want this. We want to work with you as a friend and ally. And we don't want to see you hurt either. But your government has chosen to do this to you.
Correct.
As of this morning, markets are down, and inflation is set to rise dramatically all across your country. Your government has chosen to put American jobs at risk, at the thousands of workplaces that succeed because of materials from Canada or because of consumers in Canada, or both. They've chosen to raise costs for American consumers on everyday essential items like groceries and gas, on major purchases like cars and homes, and everything in between. They've chosen to harm American national security, impeding access to the abundant critical minerals, energy, building materials, and fertilizers that we have and that the United States needs to grow and prosper. They've chosen to launch a trade war that will, first and foremost, harm American families. They've chosen to sabotage their own agenda that was supposed to usher in a new golden age for the United States. And they've chosen to undermine the incredible work we've done together to tackle the scourge that is fentanyl.
Now, one of the things that Prime Minister Trudeau pointed out, which I don't know if it's literally true, but it certainly starts to couch this entire fiasco as potentially an act of aggression, is that Trudeau said that part of the trying to bring on the collapse of the Canadian economy is Trump's idea that then Canada will become an American state, something that, although Trudeau didn't have to clarify it, he says it's not going to happen.
I think in terms of what he wants, I heard he talked about banking again this morning in a tweet, which doesn't make any sense because American banks, there's about 16 American banks currently active in Canada holding about $113 billion worth of assets in this country. So the American banks are alive and well and prospering in Canada. It's an example of not really being able to see what it is that he wants, because even the excuse that he's giving for these Paris tariffs today of fentanyl is completely bogus, completely unjustified, completely false. So we actually have to fold back on the one thing he has said repeatedly, that what he wants is to see a total collapse of the Canadian economy, because that'll make it easier to annex us, is the second half of his thought. Now, first of all, that's never going to happen. We will never be the 51st state. But yeah, he can do damage to the Canadian economy, and he's started this morning.
One of the things that's being referenced there is Donald Trump's post to Truth Social.
Truth Social.
Where Trump said, quote, "Canada doesn't allow American banks to do business in Canada, but their banks flood the American market. Oh, that seems fair to me, doesn't it?" And of course, as Justin Trudeau points out, that is very much not true. What is true is that he has turned our allies against us, not against us as individuals. I mean, Justin Trudeau is making it clear the problem is not with the American people, it's with what Trump is doing. And Trudeau also, I mean, really taking Trump to task on every aspect of this absurdity, talking about the appeasement of Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator, according to Trudeau, words Trump simply does not have the testicular fortitude to use.
At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense. Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake. At the moment, the U.S. tariffs came into effect in the early hours of this morning, and so did the Canadian response. Canada will be implementing 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
This is not good for anybody. I don't know how any Magapotamian or even a Magadonian could see this and say, things are going to get better for me. Life will be better for my family thanks to this. Trudeau also focusing in on the claim that this is about fentanyl, or as Trump likes to call it, fentanyl, and saying we know that that's not the case. It's very clear that that's not why this is being done.
I think in what President Trump said yesterday, that there is nothing Canada or Mexico can do to avoid these tariffs, underlines very clearly what I think a lot of us have suspected for a long time, that these tariffs are not specifically about fentanyl, even though that is the legal justification he must use to actually move forward with these tariffs.
And finally, Trudeau warning Trump, speaking directly to Trump. How will Trump react to this? Not well.
Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the U.S. have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Is Trump a very smart guy?
We two friends fighting is exactly what our opponents around the world want to see.
And the problem there is that Trump doesn't agree that they are our opponents, because Trump is praying at the altar of Putin. He's on his knees supplicating, and he simply doesn't agree that that's actually our opponent. How backwards things are. You hate to say it, but Canada seems to have the situation relatively well handled. Obviously, it's not good for them. The trade war isn't good for anybody. We've made that clear. But their response, it's not good for the United States. And people are slowly figuring that out. Many people in the audience know I speak multiple languages. I first learned Spanish when I was born in Argentina. Then I learned English. I learned some Hebrew in Hebrew school. I learned French in junior and high school. I am no stranger to the language learning process. And one of the most useful tools I've ever used is the app called Babbel. The way our sponsor Babbel teaches you languages truly works, and it works fast. Instead of a bunch of silly quizzes and games like a lot of the other apps, Babbel is designed by real people
for real conversations. All of Babbel's tips and tools for learning a new language are approachable. They're rooted in real-life situations and conversations. Babbel's bite-sized 10-minute lessons are just perfect for me. I can do it on the go, do it during a lunch break. It really sticks fast. Babbel was able to help me feel ready for my recent trip to France. I'm using Babbel to brush up on Italian and German just for fun. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others prove Babbel is better. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is like a full semester of language at college. Here's a special limited time deal for my audience. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for my audience at babbel.com/Pacman. Rules and restrictions may apply. The link is in the description.